agenda. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Mr. Shaw, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. New business? BRD, none. We got a new business, correct? BRD 9 is a board item. I already did BRD 9 and BRD 10, BRD 11. So board members, the board clerk passed out the evaluation for Inspector General, evaluation for your review. You'll see by the cover sheet that Mr. Chu, our Inspector General, scored 100% highly effective. So I'm going to make a recommendation. We need a motion and a second to vote on it. I recommend the board approve and accept the annual evaluation for the Inspector General. Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Andrews. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations, Mr. Chu, for a job very well done. Thank you.
Mr. Barbieri.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So, at the last meeting, I did discuss that we need to make a decision as to how we're going to proceed with the Inspector General's office. My understanding from our general counsel is we can't vote tonight on how we're going to move forward because we haven't noticed that discussion. So, in light of that, what I want to do is I want to make a motion that an item be brought back to the board at our next meeting to decide if we are going to hire a replacement for Mr. Chu or partner with the County Inspector General, John Carey, in the manner described in Mr. Burke's November 13 email, as well as the parameters that were provided to us by the General Counsel.
Okay, that motion was made by Ms. Brill, seconded by Mr. Shaw. So under discussion, first I'd like to, so you see the memo from the General Counsel's office. I asked her to put together for us a list of the things that we might want to have ready for us at the next meeting. So as part of that motion, if it passes at the next meeting, we'll ask the superintendent through the HR department to provide that information. Hopefully we'll have it ahead of time, Dr. LaCava, so the board members have a chance to review it before we get to the meeting on the December 11th. But there's a list there for all of you to take a look at. If you see anything else that you think that you would like the HR to have available for us, please get that to Dr. LaCava as soon as possible, or to the General Counsel's office so that they can get that stuff for us. Yes, Ms. Brill.
Thank you. And I would also ask that you invite Mr. Carey to the meeting if he's available. If he isn't, that's okay too, but we might have questions for him.
Mr. Superintendent, yes.
Yes, I just want to make, for point of clarity, the information that Mr. Barbieri just spoke to, could you tell me a date that you want to have that? How much time will you need to review prior to the meeting? I need to be able to give them a timeline.
Well, my motion was going to be for the next board meeting where we vote, because time is really going by quickly. Mr. Chu is going to be leaving in March. Right, most likely,
So
right?
Yeah, so I talked to Mr. Chu, and we reviewed the statute. So under the Florida statute that governs drop, Mr. Chu could stay until the end of May if we needed him to stay. And his contract doesn't run out until, is it July or August? But he's got to leave anyway because of drop. But under the state law, we could extend that till the end of the school year, which is the end of May. So he would be available to stay with us for a little while longer. I'm not suggesting we do that, but if we can't get it done, but that's why, we're bringing it now to try and get it next meeting. So, Mr. Superintendent, I guess to answer your question, if we can get it a week before the meeting?
Yeah, Dr. LaCava, can we get it a week before the December 11th meeting?
Bless you. There's not much to give us.
I just want to make sure.
Was there any other answer to that question, Dr. LaCava? No.
So we'll have that information in the board office for board members to review a week prior to the meeting.
So let me ask, before we vote, do we want the Inspector General from Palm Beach County to be sitting here while we go through all of this stuff at the next board meeting? Ms. Brill?
I can withdraw that request. I think that we pretty much had the outline of what he's offering here, but I don't understand the materials being left in the boardroom. I think all we really need is a matrix taking these items and showing us, if you do this, then these are the steps you need to discuss. If you do this, then this is what you need to do, and, you know, deciding the scope of services. I mean, it's really just taking out these items and providing that to us to follow so that we know the 3 different paths. And when we vote on that, then what the steps underneath each one.
Okay,
I mean,
Mrs.
it
Rico?
shouldn't be difficult.
Just as a point of, again, a point of clarity for staff, who my office has been working closely with. So, you know, the outline here in my memo to you all of today went through sort of a decision tree.
Right.
But what we were collectively suggesting was that information that would support you all making this decision, such as in the event that you do a national search, who are, you know, to identify who are the firms that could do this work, how much would it cost, if they can, you know, possibly get that information, you know, the time, the resources, and the information that you all would need to help inform you making these decisions by a date certain in advance of the December 11th meeting. I think that's what Dr. Fenoy was asking Dr. LaCava about. Like, could we get that information to the board in some format so that you had an informed decision?
Okay, so Mrs. Rico, you went through this obviously already with the superintendent's staff, so if you could kind of work coordinating that for the board with the superintendent's staff to make sure that we have everything we need for the next meeting. And the superintendent certainly has agreed to help us with that. Ms. Brill?
And I understand that the audit committee is meeting, I believe, on Friday, so I'm looking forward also to their input so that when we make the decision, we have their thoughts as well.
In fact, the Inspector General policy requires us to get input from, it says we may allow the audit committee to do the interviews. We don't necessarily have to do that, but it says we shall select an Inspector General with input from the audit committee. So, and I know Mr. Chu's preparing to talk to them on Friday about the situation with him leaving us abruptly with 5 years' notice. All right, more discussion? We're done with discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Superintendent?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim November 2019 as Homeless Child and Youth Awareness Month.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitfield, you're going to read that.
Erica, who is sneezing a lot over here, is going to do her best. Okay, so proclamation, Homeless Child and Youth Awareness Month, November 2019. And I wanted to make a quick comment about this actually while we're saying this. I just wanted to say the other day I was at a really great session where we were working on trying to figure out how to tackle youth homelessness, and somebody got up and said that they would love to be to go and visit a community who had actually figured this out, because it's such a huge issue, and we really just have not figured it out. And I think Palm Beach County really can. We have so many great things in place, so I'm very proud of the work that's being done in the community on this. So hopefully one day we won't have to read proclamations about this. Whereas, responding to the increasing number of homeless families with children, President Ronald Reagan in 1987 signed into law the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, guaranteeing equal access to free, appropriate public education to children and youth experiencing homelessness. And whereas, the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act requires every school district to appoint a local liaison for homeless education to ensure proper identification, immediate enrollment, and linkages to the other educational and community services for which students experiencing homelessness are eligible. And whereas every school district in the state has designated a local homeless education liaison who is responsible for ensuring that homeless students' educational rights are observed. And whereas 4,472 homeless children and youth were identified within the school district of Palm Beach County during the 2018-2019 school year. And whereas as a community, we need to do everything we can to help stabilize and support families in economic distress. and that includes ensuring that homeless children and youth have equal access to quality education and all of the support that we can provide. And whereas the McKinney-Vento program of the Department of Safe Schools, School District of Palm Beach County, works to remove barriers often encountered by students experiencing homelessness in enrolling, attending, and succeeding in school while increasing awareness of issues facing homeless children and youth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the superintendent and the school board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim November 2019 as Homeless Child and Youth Awareness Month, done on this 20th day of November 2019 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir. I recommend the board receive and accept the monthly purchasing and disbursement report as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Ms. Brill. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Opposed? 6-1 with Dr. Robinson in opposition. P2, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. P2, I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Ms. McQuinn. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. PA1.
Yes, sir. PA1, I recommend the board approve the school improvement plans developed by each school with assistance from the School Advisory Council, SAC, and accept the submission of each school's SAC membership list and bylaws.
Motion by Ms. McQuinn, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Discussion? Dr. Robinson?
Thank
and
you.
Ms. Brill.
So I pulled this because I don't know. I think the school improvement plans are too important, or potentially could be too important to be a document that helps us actually lead the work that we want done in the schools. And so I have two suggestions. One is that the board annually discuss the template for the school improvement plan before the template is sent to the schools to complete. And then secondly, I would like for us to put some kind of compliance measure in there. So for example, if a school does not meet, if they don't take the actions outlined, if they don't meet the outcomes that they expect, that be reported to the board. Because right now it's just a whole bunch of paper, unfortunately. And I think the whole school, the whole SAC and the whole school improvement plan process is actually designed to do good things, to have parents, community, and teachers together, working together to help improve whatever aspect they're looking at the school. But unfortunately, it is kind of like my concern about school-based teams is pushing paper, and then we don't do with the words on that paper what we would hope. So I would like to have some brainstorming around those two things, the board providing input on the school improvement plan template before it goes to the schools, and then on the back end for the board to receive a report about schools who don't live up to their own expectations, whether it's actions or outcomes.
Ms. Brill and then Ms. McQuinn.
Thank you. So I'm concerned, my concerns revolve around the comments that were made by Ms. Baker. You know, it's one of the many, school improvement plans we have here, but I'm concerned that teachers were not involved. I don't know if there's a way to confirm the information that's there, but I am, that's a big concern, and I don't know if there's a way to pull that one out, approve the others, and then, have discussion or have someone come back to us, because I think these plans have to be created with fidelity to Dr. Robinson's comments. Prior to being on the school board, I served on 3 different school advisory committees. We took it very, very seriously. We tracked every year what worked and what didn't work. But I know not all schools do that, but it does need to be more meaningful than just a piece of paper. So I agree with the recommendation she made, but I am concerned about approving that particular school improvement plan.
Ms. McQuinn.
Okay, this was not going to be my comment to start, so I'll come back to that in response to Dr. Robinson's concerns. This William T. Dwyer High School, which is the high school we are talking about, has a strong parent and teacher involvement, there is no way that school submitted a school improvement plan without the appropriate involvement. If so, then certainly punitive action ought to be taken, because then they have been fraudulent about submitting their plan. Two things, putting that aside. I too, like those of us who have been parts of schools, the school improvement plan is how we do business. It literally is how we do business. It isn't just a bunch of paper at all. I don't know of a school that does that. Should there be punitive action if you don't meet all of your goals, and you do some practical goals and you do some stretch goals? You're held accountable by overall meeting your school's students' needs. Your school improvement plan is how you plan to meet those needs. And then most schools, I don't know what the district requirement is now, but most schools on a monthly basis look at what their timelines were, their time specific. Are we getting there? Are we not making progress? Do we need to make mid-course adjustments? So I don't know of any school improvement plan. And again, I'm going to go back to my history now. I supervised 33 schools. I personally, with the team, reviewed every school improvement plan. And then we had to give it to the district, who reviewed every plan. So I just have a strong objection to two things. One, that there is the assumption that it's a bunch of paper, and two, that there should be punitive consequences associated with not doing every single thing in the plan.
So unfortunately, it's been my experience that all too often it is essentially a check the box, right? Now, I realize idealistically it's not. And Ms. McQuinn, you cannot judge all schools based upon schools that were under your leadership, okay? So now, and I'm not interested in punishing people. What I'm interested in doing is having us know what's actually happening. In turn, then how do we support it? So say, for example, there was a school that said that they were going to increase the ELC geometry scores, right? The percentage of children who pass ELC. And they intended to have a robust after-school tutoring program, but they were not able to because of either money or some logistical thing. Well, I mean, but that's when the system steps in to support, right? I'm not into punishing people, but I am into shining the light on whether it's shiny or dirty. I think we need to tell it. And clearly the expectation is that the board has some degree of responsibility in making sure that the school improvement plans live up to expectation. That's why we have to approve them, right? But we don't see the back end. We don't know if they lived up to expectations. And for me, it's really about identifying how we change the system to support schools. So instead of just looking at school grades, which I think is truly fraudulent.
Ms. Brill.
Thank you. So thinking about the schools in my district, I think they really do implement the school improvement plans with fidelity. I sort of think of them as an IEP meeting when you go and you do it and you work together, sort of like an IEP, and then you do go back and revisit it. So maybe if there are particular schools that we're questioning, but I'm open anyway to taking a look at it. But I can tell you that I feel very secure in the District 3 schools that they do it properly and monitor it. I do want to make a motion, though. I know, with all due respect to Mrs. McQuinn, I know that Dwyer is in your district. If somebody brings a concern to us from a school about their school improvement plan, I'd like to have more information before I vote to approve it. And so I was going to make a motion to pull it out so we could vote on the rest, but since Mr. Oswald's there, I'm sure he has some information to share with us.
Before Ms. Andrews, did you want to speak
Yeah, I
first?
did want to say something.
Go ahead.
I do believe in the region superintendents in my area working with the principals because they're the ones that truly oversee this. And my biggest concern in the past was that when we had those SAC meetings in the day and we didn't really get a chance to have the participation from some of those parents that truly needed to be involved with this school improvement plan, because a lot of that discussion happens in many of those meetings as well as with the school. And I'm just wanting to make sure that we have everybody's input and voice of what has to be done for that particular school to move student achievement. I really do feel strongly that the region representatives in my area have been doing that, but we want to kind of look at the times that we have these SAC meetings and make it available for everybody to participate. If we have it at 2 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, then we're eliminating people, and I think we're still doing that, and that bothers me. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Oswald, could you speak to some of the concerns before we vote on this item, please?
Yes, the sections that are referenced for Dwyer High School are under the analysis section. So those sections, we can provide professional training for the entire SAC on how to disaggregate and change that. The document is a living document that can be updated and changed ongoing, so we can work with that school if they want to make changes to that section that appropriately reflect what is going on in that particular school.
And I've already had the plan. I pulled up, I'm actually looking at Dwyer's plan right now in regards to some of the concerns, and we'll make it a priority, and I will stop by tomorrow morning and talk with, meet with Mr. Brooks in regards to what some of those concerns are, and we can do an immediate corrective action as it is a living document.
Mrs. Whitfield?
Do we end up with a report at the end of the year, maybe that we haven't seen, but that we see how the school improvement plans went? Or do we have anything that we say, you know, how did we achieve the goals? I would love to see it. I would love to see, you know, how the schools did based on what their goals were.
The monitoring process for the School Advisory Council, as you said, is a collaborative process that's ongoing, that SACs look at every month. Do we get a final report? Mr. Howard, if we get a final report.
So, good evening, Superintendent, Board Chair. The process is there is a mid-year reflection, which Mr. Oswald was talking about, to edit it, but they can revise it at any point. At the end of the year, when school grades and test scores come out, they do a reflection. We haven't in the past provided a school-by-school report. That's something that we can certainly do from performance accountability. But typically the process is the regional or instructional superintendent sits with the principal, they review the goals they set and see if they achieved the goal. And then the instructional or regional superintendent is there to guide the principal through a process of using that to do a needs analysis to set goals for the following year.
Any other discussion? All right, so the motion is to approve the plans. Ms. McQuinn? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so, Ms. McQuinn?
I said clarification. We are not pulling William T. Dwyer High School's plan. Thank you.
That's correct, we are not. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Robinson, you have a comment?
So I just want to know if staff heard that the board wants to have an end-of-year review of some sort. I mean, because I don't know, like, what we said, so I don't know what staff heard. I just need to know where we're going with those comments. The input on the front end and the end-of-year update. How did we do?
Mr. Superintendent, is that a report that that staff can provide to the board at the end of the year without much of a...
I guess the question is, you want an individual report on all 187 schools that outline, I mean, so what's the do you want to, You want on all 187 schools?
We have the school improvement plans for all schools. So my answer is yes, but what I'm particularly interested in is when the school staff does their reflection, when they don't meet their goals, their analysis of the why and how we can, what support they need from the board or district. Because it's about school improvement, right? So that's the feedback I want.
Okay.
Hold on a minute. So, Mr. Superintendent, if it's going to take your staff days to compile a report for us at the end of the year, I think it's unreasonable. I mean, that's why we have an administration that is supposed to be making sure that the schools are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So for us to micromanage the management of the administration of the schools and require 187 school reports, I mean, that's, if it's going to take days to provide that information, I think it's unreasonable for the board to ask your staff to provide that to us.
Excuse me, Mr. Barbieri, if I understood Mr. Howard, that report already exists. Now, did I misunderstand?
We do not compile a report. It's
Okay.
something that the schools do individually.
Okay,
We don't centrally compile that and have like a summary of
Okay.
it, which
so
I
it
think
can
is
be
what you're
sent in a
asking about.
Google Doc. We don't have to make this a lot of work. I understand it's November 20th, but we don't need to make this a lot of work. Right? So it's just whether or not this is going to be a mechanism by which the board supports schools. If my fellow board members don't see that this is a way for us to support schools, then so be it. I'll just address it school by school in District 7.
Ms. Brill.
Thank you. So I just don't think it's practicable to do it the way you're recommending, Dr. Robinson, because when I've sat on the school advisory committees, we sit down the next school year and we look at, okay, here was our plan, where have we fallen short, what do we need to do? I think it's incumbent upon the schools, if they need more assistance from the district, to go to their area office and ask for what they need. But, you know, at the end of the school year, I know from my experience, they don't have any report, and it would just be a horrible burden to try and get them together to try and measure those outcomes when half the time they don't even have the scores that they would need at the end of the year to provide that information. So I agree with Mr. Barbieri that, you know, I think that's just too much of a burden, but I do think that we just need to make sure our principals, and I know our administrators know that when schools need something, they need to reach out.
Mr. Shaw.
I believe, unless, it's been a while since I've written a school improvement plan and been involved, but my understanding is that those objectives and the items in the SIP that are not completed during the year are addressed the following year as part of the development of the following year's school improvement plan. So I think that Dr. Robinson's getting what she's asking for, because every school should be addressing that. So am I wrong on that, or is that still the process? Okay.
That's correct.
Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So at the end of the school year, when all the data comes in, we have a report. Every school, I mean, that's how they get their letter grades. We have all the data that suggests what type of improvements were made throughout the year. So we give that is public knowledge at the end of the year anyway. As I am reading this document with the SAC bylaws and all the things associated with the development of that plan, the monitoring of that plan. So the real question for me, and what I have to really understand, because the accountability really sits with the regional office and the instructional superintendents. That's where it sits. And so I agree with different people. I don't know if a separate report will present any data that you already don't have. I think you already have it as by virtue of the data being presented. What I don't see is how, and this is something I think I have to work with staff, and I will, what do the regionals and instructionals do with that data when it comes in to assist the SACs and others to move the work forward? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just, I also can't understand the duplication of work that you already have. That's what I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't see it as information we already have. So, but let me just say this, motion to reconsider. I need to change my vote. Motion to reconsider.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to reconsider the last vote. All those in favor?
We're voting to reconsider the vote.
Do we have a second on Dr. Robinson's motion to reconsider? Okay, it's been seconded by by Mrs. Whitfield. All right, so the motion is to reconsider the prior vote. All in favor of reconsidering the prior vote? Let's do that first. All in favor? We have 2.
I vote to not reconsider the prior vote. I stand by my vote.
Okay,
I don't know
so
where
I
we are
think
right
we're
now.
out of order, but let me just, I would like the record to reflect that I think that it is contradictory on the one hand that we have to approve the school improvement plans up front and then not see the outcomes of those plans at the end.
Okay, so
Now,
just so we
done.
follow Robert's rules, we have a motion to reconsider. We have to vote on the motion to whether we're even going to reconsider. So we have a motion to reconsider. It's been seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. All in favor of re-voting? We're not re-voting on the prior motion. We're just in favor of doing the re-vote. How many are in favor? 2. 5 against. Okay, so the motion reconsiders it fails, and we're done with that item, I believe. Okay, we have to vote on. All in favor of approving the school improvement plans for the 180 whatever schools? All in favor, put your hands up where I can see them, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 opposed. Dr. Robinson, motion carries 6-1. Mr. Superintendent, PIR 3.
PIR 3, I recommend the board approve the real estate and purchase contract for acquisition of an improved parcel of land containing plus or minus 1.17 acres located at 520 Stony Penny Drive in Jupiter, Florida, adjacent to Jupiter Community High School, and authorize the board chair and superintendent to sign all necessary documents.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Mrs. McQuinn. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. On that last issue, Miss, what?
You had already voted on that item. That was why she wanted a revote.
That's what I thought, but, okay.
You're 7-0 on the PA one.
All right, so just to let the record reflect that after the vote, Dr. Robinson would have liked to change her vote to a no vote if she had the opportunity to do that. So that should be in the minutes. Before we close out the meeting, we have the memoriam that we usually do at these meetings. So if we can take a minute to reflect on 2 employees that have passed away. Christopher Brown, a teacher, middle gifted science, 6 through 8 at Congress Middle School, was born May 13th, 1981, died October 4th, 2019. And Claudius Rumlaken, lead custodian at Pierce Hammock Elementary, was born January 24th, 1964, died October 16th, 2019. If we could have a moment of silence for these employees, please. Thank you very much. We have a motion to adjourn by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Ms. Whitfield. All in favor, all opposed, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.